Hello everyone, I'm Professor Akruti from Ahmedabad Institute of Technology. Today, I'm here to present a video lesson on C programming topic array. Let us see that. Whenever we encounter the word array, it is always pronounced as array. Sometimes people call it array, but the correct pronunciation is array. So we will see three parts of array, that is concept, initialization, and programs with array. Let us see that one by one. First of all, what is the definition of an array? Array is the collection of similar type of data items stored at contiguous memory locations. Contiguous in the sense consecutive, that is presented in sequential manner. As shown in the figure, if we are having 10 elements in array, they will be stored from 0 to 9 in sequential manner, that is one by one, sequentially, consecutively. So that is the main aim why we use an array, is storing the similar type of data at contiguous memory locations. Now, why we need to use array? Initially, when we had programmed for C fundamentals, if I want to do sum of two variables, that is like a is equal to 5, b is equal to 6, and if I'm doing it sum, I will take one more variable, sum is equal to a plus b, right? Now suppose I want to save the marks of 100 students. That means I will be requiring 100 variables. I can say A, B, C, something like that. And I need to declare 100 variables, assigning each of them marks. For an example, A is equal to 78 will be showing enrollment 1 is having 78 marks, enrollment 2, B is having 89 marks, something like that. Suppose you do it also, you type it one by one also. The case gets complicated when we are dealing with 1 lakh or more than lakh students, something kind of that big or huge amount of data. At that time, array comes into the picture. We can see the example. We have defined an array of name A with size 100 of integer data type. And in the curly braces, we have assigned the marks of 100 students. So you can see it is actually reducing our effort. If we write this program using conventional technique, this will be more and more complicated. Tons of lines will be required to write this program. But by using an array, we can do this in single line also. So basically, two types of arrays can be used. First one is a single dimensional, second one is multidimensional. Now what is single dimensional? It is actually the simple collection of elements. Whenever we are having an array which is of kind a single row with multiple columns or a simple column with multiple rows, that kind of structure can be stored as a single dimensional array. Suppose I want to store the PPS subject mark of class B having 62 students strength. So it is having actually one column PPS and rows are 62, right? So at that time, single dimensional array is fine with it. Our data type here is integer. Everyone is having same kind of marks with integer data type. Values can be different, but the type is same data type. Okay. Second one is multidimensional. Now suppose the same class which is having 62 students strength and I want to store their marks of 5 subjects together. That means there will be 62 rows and 5 columns for each subject. At that time, the records will be 62 cross 5, right? So at that time, multidimensional array will come into the picture. So basically, it is of tabular kind of data storage thing when we will be using multidimensional array. Now let us see how to declare and initialize this kind of array. Whenever we encounter the word declare, that means just declaring anything with its data type. Suppose I'm declaring one variable a. I will write that as integer a. That is declaration of variable a. Suppose I'm writing float b. That means I'm assigning the variable b into the float data type. That is my declaration of variable b. Same way, suppose I want to declare the array. It will be declared as data type space array name into the square bracket, that is size. Data type can be anything, integer, float, character, but we have to make sure that the data which we are storing in an array is having same data type. Array name can be given any particular specific identifier name. There are some rules which we can give to identifier, how we can name an identifier. So we have to name the array name as per that only. And in the bracket, we are having size, which we need to explicitly define in C programming. We will see further why size is actually necessary to mention in array. So here the declaration examples are given. Integer a size 10. That means it will store 10 elements of integer data type into array A. Float b 100, which means 100 elements of float data type will be stored in variable b. Third is integer a. We have mentioned here two brackets, 2 and 3, in which first one is showing rows, second one is showing columns. That means 2 rows and 3 column kind of tabular data of integer data type is stored in variable a. Next step is how initialization will be done with declaration part in three ways. Declaration means, as we have seen, it just declares the variable or array. Initialization means assigning a value to it. If I'm writing integer a, that is declaration of a variable. If I'm writing integer b, that is declaration of b variable. If I'm writing a is equal to 5, that means it is initialization of a variable a. If I'm having float b and b is equal to 3.14, that means I'm initializing the b variable with float value of 3.14. If I'm writing it together, integer a is equal to 5, that means I'm initializing the variable a with its declaration part. So same here, there are three ways in which we can declare the array with its initialization. First one is declaration by specifying size. That means we can write it as shown in the syntax. Integer a of 5 size. Second one is integer a of 2 rows and 3 columns. Second type in which we can declare an array with initialization is we are writing integer a, then we have not mentioned any specific size, but we have mentioned the values for initialization. That means whenever the compiler will compile the program, it will automatically interpret as a of 3, that means array of size 3 is equal to 1 to 3. Here array name is a. One last line is mentioned in this slide is you can never initialize any array like integer a and not assigning any value. Like in this example, I have written integer a is equal to 1 to 3, and if I'm not writing 1 to 3 or any values and I'm just simply terminating it without mentioning its size, then it is actually not valid. The compiler will show error. So always remember, you can't make the bracket empty which is not having any kind of size without initializing it. So always focus, which the third line is showing in this slide. If you are having initializing elements at right side, then only you can mention it as empty bracket. Otherwise, you have to specifically mention the size of an array. Now the third way is declaration by specifying size and elements both. That means if I am writing integer a of 5 with all the elements, it will assign it. Integer a 2, 3 in which the first elements 1 to 3 are of first row and 4, 5, 6 are of second row. Okay. Now there is one more concept. If I have written integer a of 5 but I have initialized only 4 elements, that is 12, 23, 37, 45, and I am terminating the bracket, then my fifth element will be taken as 0. Suppose I am writing integer a of 5, 12, 23, and I'm ending the curly bracket. I'm not mentioning the last 3 elements. That means my array will take last 3 elements as 0. If I'm having integer a of 5, but I'm mentioning 6 or 7 elements, then it will show an error. So that is where the concept of size comes into the picture. If you are not describing the elements as per its size, if it's exceeding, it will show error. If it's lower than mentioned size, it will assign by default zeros. Okay. Now your next part is how to access the element of an array. Suppose I am having the array of integer data type a of 5 is equal to 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 5 elements are there. This will store the elements with different indices. At index 0, the element 1 will be stored. At index 1, element 2 will be stored. At index 2, third element will be stored, which is 4 in the mentioned array. At fourth position or fourth index, last element will be stored. So basically, whenever we are having an array, it will be stored from 0 to the size minus 1 of an array. So if I'm having a of 5, the elements will be stored from 0 to 4. If I'm having a of 100, it will be stored from 0 to 99. The last element will be at size minus 1 index. Here I have taken the example and named array as A, but it can be given any name. Okay, there are particular rules for the identifiers which you can refer also. Your next part is about multidimensional array element indices. As we have seen so far, in single dimensional array, we were having 0 to size minus 1 indices. Similarly, in multidimensional array also, we are having 0 to size minus 1 indices in row as well as column. So I have declared here with initialization integer a 2 of 2, that is 2 row 2 column, is equal to 1 2, that is the first row element which is shown in separate curly braces, comma 3 4, that is shown in different curly braces which is showing the element of second row. So here again the indices will start from 0 to 1. As I am having size 2, my indices will be 0 to size minus 1. So the first element will be in 0 row and 0 column. So a of 0 0 will be 1. Second element will be the row is the same, only the column is changing. So 2 is stored at a of 0 1. That is 0th row but first column. Now when I will come into second row, that will be my first index, because we have to store the element from 0 to size minus 1 index. So in the first row a of 1, the column 0 element is 3 and last element a of 1 1 is equal to 4. Same way, if I am having 3 cross 3, then it will be stored like a of 0 0, a of 0 1, a of 0 2, a of 1 0, a of 1 1, a of 1 2, a of 2 0, a of 2 1, a of 2 2. Okay, always remember the indices range in an array from 0 to size minus 1. Okay, now let us see one program example which is mentioning write a C program to read 10 numbers from user and store them in an array. We have to display its sum and average of the numbers. So the first line here is written as hash include stdio.h. Hash include will show the preprocessor directive hash symbol. which actually directs the compiler to get to know from where the program has to be converted into binary or machine understandable language. If I'm not writing hash, my compiler will not get to know which code it has to convert into machine understandable language. stdio.h is my standard input output header file, which provides the meaning of all the functions, libraries, packages to my compiler. If I have mentioned here printf and I'm not mentioning the header file here, my compiler will not get to know what is the meaning of this sentence. Okay, so the basic interface is provided by this header file. Second line is void main. Main is actually the keyword which whenever counters in compiler will get to know what is the actual runnable code or what it has to execute. Whatever written in curly braces of void main will be the actual runnable code that will show input, output or anything. Sometimes it's written as integer main also. At that time we have to mention return 0 or return 1 as per our programming logic. So the first sentence here is the variable declaration as well as initialization. Whenever we are countering the void main, always the first sentence is your variable declaration and initialization. Here we have taken integer array, name is A and size is 10. Why we have taken it as 10? Because we need a C program to read 10 numbers from user. Second variable is I because there is one advantage of array, consecutive memory locations. If I'm storing 10 elements in my array, it will store it from 0 to 9. I have taken the I to use that in my for loop so that I can traverse from 0 to 9 and access all elements of my array. Third variable I'm taking it sum and initializing it with variable value 0. Why I have taken it 0? Because whenever I will be doing the first element sum, no value will be there of the second operand. So at that time I have to explicitly mention the value of this. If I'm mentioning sum is equal to 0, then first addition will be sum plus a of 0, that is the first element of my array. If I'm not having the value of sum, it will take some garbage value and show any random output. That's why it's necessary to initialize it with any value. Second line I have written as float. As we all know, if we are getting any answer in fractional part, float will come into the picture. Since we need to find the average can be of anything. It can be integer also, it can be in fraction also. That's why we have taken average as float. So first sentence which I have written is input the 10 numbers, in which I need for loop because I want to access the index from 0 to 9. So first sentence I have written in for syntax is for I is equal to 0, I less than 10, I plus plus. Why we have started it from 0? Because array index starts from 0 to size minus 1. So I is equal to 0 is the basic initialization. After that I less than 10, which can be replaced by I less than is equal to 9 also. And third thing is I plus plus. So how this loop traverses? First of all, I is equal to 0. It will check the condition is 0 less than 10. If it is true, it will execute all the statements mentioned in its curly braces. After that, I gets incremented I plus plus. So now I turns 1. Again, it checks the condition 1 less than 10. It enters the curly braces, executes all the statements mentioned in the for loop curly braces. Then only it gets incremented again I plus plus. So I will be now 2. Again 2 less than 10 will be checked. All the statement will get executed. Then I plus plus will be done. So this thing will be done till the value of I is not less than 10. Means when I plus plus will give me value 10, 10 less than 10 will be false. Then only it will come out from the for loop. Here the loops which will get executed in for loop are from printf number percentage di plus 1 to sum is equal plus is equal to a of I. Okay, so in for loop always remember it does not end with semicolon. All the other statements end with semicolon, but conditionals, statements, loops, these things never end with semicolon except the do while loop. So in for loop, first sentence is printf number percentage d I plus 1. Now why I have written this as number percentage d I plus 1? Just to give me an idea that which number I'm scanning. If I write this number 1 is I plus 1, that means number at first position is whatever number I'm scanning first. Why I have taken I plus 1? Because I'm starting my index from 0. So if I will write this as number percentage d 0, this will give me an output as number 0 is your first element, whatever you are mentioning. Then number 1 your second element, kind of. We will see the output of it and you will get more clear idea about it, why we have written it as I plus 1. Second sentence is about scanning. Whenever you are scanning an array, it is necessary to mention a array name and into bracket the index. Here you do not have to mention its size, you have to mention its index. Percentage D, the symbol for this, the control string for scanning an integer data type element, that is percentage D. Ampersand is the syntax of scanf to scan the value at variable whatever mentioned after ampersand sign, that is your AND symbol. It is known as ampersand. Here I have written it a of I, that means the first number which I will enter, that will be stored at a of 0. Second number which I will enter, that will stored at a of 1. So till a of 9 all the elements will get stored. So that is why I have taken for loop for that. Third statement is written as sum plus is equal to a of I, that means sum is equal to sum plus a of I. This is the short form of it. We have seen various assignment operators also. Sum plus is equal to a of I means sum is equal to sum plus a of I. Why I have written a of I? I is showing my array index. Okay. So when I will be 0, it will check 0 less than 10. It will scan one element and sum will be sum plus a of I. That is sum plus a of 0. When I will be 1, my sum will be sum plus a of 1. In sum, my sum plus a of 0 was stored. Now my sum is sum plus a of 1. In third line, again when sum plus a of 2 will be there, in which a of 0 plus a of 1 was already added in previous sum value. Now it gets overwrite with sum plus a of 2. Again, when I will be 3, sum will be equal to sum plus a of I. That means a of 0 plus a of 1 plus a of 2 are already stored in sum. Now it's doing sum is equal to sum plus a of 3. So the elements are getting added one by one. So till a of 0 to a of 9, all the summation will be done in this and my for loop ends. After I'm having the value in some variable, my average is getting found. Here I have not taken average in for loop because I want to do only the final average. It's not like the sum which I need to do in every element's addition. I just need an average after I find the total sum. So average is equal to sum by 10, which needs not to be written in for loop, and I'm getting it printed. So let us see the output of it. Output will be input the 10 numbers. You can see number 1, that's why we had taken I plus 1 for printing the message. So you can see all the numbers 10. Logically it is number at 0th position is 1 and number at 9th position is 10, right? And the sum and average is getting printed. So that is the basic program of array. Why we have taken sum is equal to sum plus a of I, it gets clear now. In first step, sum is equal to 0 and 0 plus 1 will be done. In second step, when sum is equal to sum plus a of I is encountered, 0 plus 1 is already stored, so 1 plus 2 will be done. So that is your answer 3. In third step, sum is equal to sum plus a of I, 3 plus your third element, that is your answer 6 will be stored in sum. In fourth step, sum is equal to sum plus a of I, 6 is already stored in sum, plus 4 will be done, that gives you answer 10. Again in next step, sum is equal to sum plus a of I. 10 is already stored in sum. 10 plus 5 will be done. Okay, so we have to do this program tracing as per this. That's why we had taken for loop here. Now let us see one more example. That is, write a C program to read 10 numbers from user, store them in an array, find minimum of array. So we are basically familiar with array traversing, that we have to deal with its indices from 0 to 10, right? Whenever I'm having an array of 10 size, that means my indices here will be 0 to 9, because I have to deal with 0 to size minus 1. Okay, so now the basic logic for finding minimum of array is, whenever human brain encounters the problem like finding minimum, maximum, what it does, it does basic comparisons. Suppose I'm having 1 2 3 4 5. How come my brain know that 1 is the smallest element? Because it is comparing 1 with 2, 2 with 3, 3 with 4, 4 with 5, 5 with 1, right? All the elements are getting compared. And then we get the conclusion that 1 is the lowest. Same way, here we need to find the logic for finding the minimum. Suppose I'm having two elements, 4 and 7. I will take one more temporary variable as smallest. I'm giving it name smallest. So in smallest, what I will do, whatever the low value is there, I will store it in it. Suppose I'm having 4 and 7, I will compare is 4 less than 7. If the condition is true, the value of the smallest variable will be 4. Now if I'm entering the third element 1. So 4 less than 7 was true. So my smallest value was 4. Now I am entering 1. It will again compare. Is 4 is less than 1? Here the condition gets false. So now the value of smallest variable will be 1. Now suppose I am entering the fourth element 0. 0 is less than 1. Yes. So the value of smallest will now be 0. Now suppose I am entering the element 5. Is 5 less than 0? No. So smallest element will be as it is. Same logic we have to follow here. I'm taking the for loop for scanning all the array elements. Okay, so here the array elements will be scanned from a of 0 to a of 9, because I less than 10 condition is given. It can be returned as I less than is equal to 9 also. First of all, in smallest, I have taken as my first element a of 0. Okay, now I'm traversing the loop again. I'm comparing all the elements. If a of 0 is less than smallest, then smallest is equal to a of I. That means the smallest value is assigned to this variable. First of all, a of 0 is there. It will be checked. Smallest is also a of 0. So first element is compared with its own self. Okay, so we are having the smallest element as it is. In second step, a of 1 will be compared with a of 0. If a of 0 is less than a of 1, that is my first element is less than second element. In smallest, first element will be there. Now I have to check a of 2, that is my third element. If a of 2 is less than smallest, in smallest we are not having previous element. In smallest we are having the minimum element found till now. Okay, so if I'm having the list of 5 element, in smallest whatever value is smallest is stored. Okay, so it is comparing the values a of 0, a of 1, a of 2, a of 3, a of 4, all the values with the smallest found up till now. When this loop concludes, we have to print it. So final statement is about the smallest element is whatever it is. Okay. So in if condition, the first step was a of 0 less than smallest. If it is there, smallest is holding the value of a of 0. Then a of 1 less than smallest, then smallest will be a of 1. Then it will check a of 2 less than smallest. If the condition is false, smallest is a of 1 as it is. Now it will check a of 3 is less than smallest. If the condition is true, smallest is a of 3. Otherwise, it is as it is a of 1. Okay. If a of 4 is less than smallest, then now smallest will be a of 4. Otherwise, a of 1 is as it is. Okay. The output of it, I'm entering 5 elements, and my smallest element is not getting replaced by anyone, because we are having the condition smallest less than a of I. Then only smallest will be a of I. Right. So 11 is the smallest. So now let us see what are the advantages of array. As we have seen, it saves the memory because we do not need to write a lot of variable with its variable declaration initialization part. We can mention just simple array with its data type and mention the value in its curly braces. It is easy to debug because it's having contiguous memory location in sequential memory blocks. It stores multiple values of same data type, and it is easy to access by consecutive indices. Okay, if I'm having size 10, my indices are 0 to 9. Now, why it's necessary to specify the size of an array. This is the last portion of this video lesson about array concept. Why we are writing the size in the square bracket. See, whenever the compiler traces the sentence about array size, it actually gets to know which memory blocks are now required to be allocated. Suppose I am not mentioning the size of an array 10, then how it will get the idea of 0 to 9 block in consecutive locations? What if the memory blocks are not in consecutive locations in sequential manner? That's why there will be one base address and it needs enough space. That's why the size is actually necessary to be initialized. Third thing, it's written here that again it's dependent on data type. Every data type is having different memory sizes. So on an average, it's always compulsory to mention its size. If you have not mentioned but you have initialized the elements, then also at compile time it can get value. But if you keep integer a square bracket and semicolon and not initializing any value, it will never get an ID and it will show error, because it's compulsory for array to get a space in consecutive memory blocks which shares the same boundaries, right? That is the main thing for contiguous memory blocks in sequential manner. Okay, so that's it with this array. If you are having any doubt, you may ask that. Okay, thank you.